This is a Chris Combs production.
Thanks for coming to Chris's Corner. It's been 24 days since the death of George Floyd has sparked protests and riots across the globe. From New York City to Seattle, from Italy to the United Kingdom, we've seen tremendous support and calls for an end to police brutality in America. And that the system are starting to finally recognize that Black lives do indeed matter. We've seen social media blackouts, cops kneeling in solidarity, politicians in kente cloths, calls to defund the police, and Donald Trump even saying that he'd like to see Colin Kaepernick get a shot. And it seems as if our message was beginning to come across. Then here comes Rayshard Brooks. This case isn't as simple as George Floyd. Now, I get it. When a Black man is killed by police, he has to be without blame in the incident for a majority of the people to think that his life was worth preserving. Was Rayshard in the wrong? Yes. Did he have to die because of it? No. The system is flawed. The system is skewed. But the system is doing exactly what it's designed to do. Let me explain. The 13th Amendment was ratified on January 31st, 1865. The 13th Amendment states that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, where the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Most Americans see that as the abolition of slavery. Slavery is illegal. If you can't have it, it'll never happen. Boom. Well, what a lot of people miss is that the 13th Amendment literally gives an exception to slavery. See, it says, except as a punishment for a crime where the party has been duly convicted. So what do you think happened next? I'll tell you. With the abolition of slavery, you had an entire group of free Black people now looking for work and an economy that was faltering because there was no one to work for free. So Southern states passed laws called Black Codes that restricted the freedom of African Americans, restricted their right to vote, bear arms, learning to read and write, etc. But the restrictions aren't the defining points of this practice. It's the vagrancy laws within this that gave it its power. See, the vagrancy laws allowed local police to arrest free Blacks and incarcerate them and commit them to free labor or legal slavery. It criminalized things like unemployment, homelessness, not paying certain taxes, etc. Also, in 1865, 8 southern states allowed convict leasing, which allowed convicts to be hired out to the states and companies for labor. This incentivized the arresting and persecution of African Americans. To this day, it is still a practice. In fact, this very day, prison labor is a billion-dollar industry. The enslavement of Black people have been economically beneficial for this country since slaves first set foot on this continent. While it may not be the slavery you're taught in your history books, it still exists. It just has a new form. Don't think that exception to the 13th Amendment was put there by accident. The Black codes may not exist in their old form, but we still see them. Homelessness itself isn't a crime, but we see how the system puts them there on the path, to crime based off how there's lack of legislation helping homeless people get back on their feet and how they're treated. We have the 15th Amendment, which now allows everyone the right to vote. But we see the remnants of the Black Code's restrictive practices when they close voting polls in high minority areas, which increases waiting times, which in turn may stop some people from voting, and the practice of stripping those who have been convicted of a felony of their voting rights. You see, when I say the system is flawed and skewed, but works the way it's supposed to, it's because the criminal justice system isn't meant to reform. It's meant to punish, and it's meant to profit. It's not meant to correct behavior. Why do you think there's never a discussion on how to effectively reform criminals? When I watched that Rayshard Brooks video, I see a guy who misjudged how much he had to drink. It started off calm, it started off compliant, and then it escalated quickly. Should he have went for the taser and should he have resisted? No. But should he have gotten to that point? No. Why not get him a ride home? Why not take his car keys, call him a cab or an Uber, issue him a citation, and send him on his way? Why? Because we know the system doesn't allow that. There's no profit in that. This is why I say defund the police. It doesn't mean abolish and do away with the police. It means doing away with unnecessary spending and practices and reallocating those services that would be better to help the community. De-escalation training, mental health services, social services, and so on. For instance, the LAPD just received a $120 million boost to their budget. Meanwhile, the Housing and Community Investment Department in LA had their budget cut by $1.2 million. And this will put about 16,000 people on furlough and possibly prohibit them from building 1,025 housing units that is much needed to help them combat their growing homelessness problem. But meanwhile, the LAPD officers with college degrees will get $40 million in bonuses this upcoming year. I think it's time we reevaluate our priorities. I think it's time we evaluate the way the system is operating. But one last thing. For my newfound people who are now new to the movement, and you think you did something because you went out, you marched, you held your signs, you changed your profile picture, this is where it gets real. Does a Black life still matter even though he may have been wrong? Or was the past few weeks just you letting off some steam because you're cooped up in the house and need something to be angry at? If you truly mean what you say, then now's the time to keep that same energy you had 2 weeks ago. This isn't a fad. This isn't a trend. Black lives matter, even guilty ones. Oh, and arrest the cops that killed Breonna Taylor.